Welcome back to the Pack Fresh podcast, where we talk about all things Pokemon TCG and give you a little peek behind the curtain, what's like to sell in the space. And today we've got a special guest.
Today we're joined by the entertaining Goodzilla. Zilla, welcome on, man. It's good to see you.
See you guys as well. Thank you for having me.
We got a lot to cover this week. Starting out, we got the Cheetozard. Did you guys hear about this?
That's crazy.
This is crazy. $87,840 for a Cheeto that looks like a Charizard is absolutely wild.
A 101, you know.
101.
That's true.
Can't put a price on one.
It was at LA Collecticon too.
And I missed it. I didn't see it.
I didn't see it.
I didn't see it either. Man. Yeah, I bet.
It's kind of sick.
Think about how many Cheetos you could buy with $87,000 that you could try to get another Charizard Cheeto.
Did you see all the meme videos that came out of that though? They open up and they're like, "All right, pack fresh," and they open a bag of Cheetos and they're like, "Oh, we got a Ekans trio, guys."
I saw one person, they had rows of stacks of Cheetos, and they're like, "All right, which bag do you want?" And they're like, "Bag 7," and then they're ripping it. They pre-made one into looking like a Charizard that was like glued together.
Oh
my God. Losing their shit.
That's hilarious.
It was funny.
What's the shelf life of a Cheeto? You would think it would break down over time. So you bought a $90,000 thing that's going to be like fragile.
Do you like put it
frail.
in resin? So
I know you would. That's what I was thinking. You'd have to in order to keep that stable. I know we use a lot of preservatives in the food, but that's still over time. It's gotta degrade down.
Are you buying a Cheeto for $88,000?
Absolutely not.
No.
Oh, I think I'm good. I think if I were to spend 87 grand, it would be towards a vintage box or towards a first edition base.
Yeah, I honestly don't even think that I'm gonna spend $87,000 on Cheetos in my entire life. I don't even think all three of us combined would spend $87,000. It's
a lot.
That is a huge budget for Cheetos.
I do love flaming hot Cheetos, but I don't think I could justify it. I'll just keep buying bag by bag, and maybe I'll get lucky and get like a Dragonite or something.
Right.
Gengar.
Yeah. Oh, Gengar
Cheeto.
Dude, Gengar's game over. It's gonna go over. Crazy. Charizard.
What year did you start streaming, and how did you get into Pokemon as what you were streaming?
I started streaming on Facebook in 2020. So basically, during COVID and during the craziness, my bars were shut down due to not serving food. So I had a lot of free time on my hands, and I was heavily invested into Warzone. I was playing COD literally nonstop, and I was playing that all the time on stream. And I randomly just started showing off my old vintage binder from when I was a kid in my community, and chat was like freaking out, losing their shit because they're like, "Oh my God." And this was during the hype of like when Logan Paul brought Pokemon to like the big hype in 2020. And I was showing off different cards, and at that point Vivid Voltage and Champions Path were the big sets that just released. And I was like, "What do you guys think if we rip some packs on stream? Can I just rip some stuff for myself?" Then people started asking, "Can I buy some packs?" I was like, "Sure." I remember my first day ever doing it. I ran it all over Dallas, and I went to every Target that I potentially could find or Walmart to find ETBs or those 10 collection boxes of Champions Path and Vivid. And I was just buying as much as I could, and then I just sold them on stream for a little extra, a little over what I paid. And they sold out in the first day, and I was like, "What is going on? What is life?"
Yeah, that's awesome.
And at the time, like, I didn't grasp the hobby and like grading and like the way everything worked. I collected since I was like 11 years old, and I was a kid. I didn't realize the fundamental of the grading aspect and the values of everything. And then I noticed that my viewership started growing through Pokemon, and I eventually switched over from Warzone nonstop to Pokemon, and I was just selling modern packs, ripping ships. And then I got into mystery pulls, and then I got into vintage box breaks, and I grew to the point where I was like the top Pokemon person on Facebook, and I grew like 10x of my viewers and community over 3 months from switching from Pokemon to Call of Duty.
So you went from Facebook, and then you went...
So from Facebook, I got demonetized because they considered ripping and shipping as gambling, and with the mystery pulls, I got demonetized. So imagine only going live to your Facebook friends and then never getting any reach anywhere else. So I was like, "This is stupid. This is bullshit. I'm not doing that."
Right.
And Whatnot had been reaching out to me for months about, "You should check out Whatnot and do all this, that." And I was just like, maybe. But at the same time, I had my own website. I was selling as my own LLC. I didn't have fees, those types of things. So that played a big part into why I had stayed on Facebook. And eventually I just full sent it and switched over to Whatnot and did a 5,000 card, $5 mystery pull game that lasted 12 hours. My first stream, and I gained like 8,000 followers on my first stream, and like it was 0 to 100. I'm actually at my 3-year marker on Whatnot right now. Like tomorrow, we'll be at 3 years.
Man.
Thanks. Yeah, it's crazy. At that time, no one used OBS. No one had a professional camera setup. So all the big dogs at the time were like, "Fuck's this guy? What's this guy doing? How does he have such good quality? And what is this drum set?" And obviously, I play live drums on stream, so it was like a wow factor. And that was a point in Whatnot where you had to get approved to get in. Not just any seller could join Whatnot. You had to get invited / approved to get in at the time. So it was a lot harder to get into Whatnot.
I was definitely much more gated back when it first started. They had quite a interview process for you to get in, and they wanted to make sure you could get inventory and had a good streaming setup, and they were picky.
Yeah. I remember back in the day, I tried to get in because a friend of mine was doing Disney sales, and I tried to sell, and they were like, "Oh, send me all the pictures of your inventory and all this stuff." And at the time, I had some, but it was just like inconvenient to get it all together. And they were like, "Yeah, no,
not today."
Oh,
yeah,
no.
Sorry, actually,
not today.
Yeah.
8,000 in one stream, that's a heck of a catapult. You don't see that at all with streamers in today's landscape.
I used to stream on Twitch. Now I'm on Whatnot. I was actually did Call of Duty too, so it's fun. It's actually interesting. What is like the community difference? Because I really enjoyed Whatnot. There's a lot of different places you can sell on now, but Whatnot feels the most community driven. And like, what's that difference moving from Facebook and having that viewer base and that community? What's it like streaming on Whatnot versus what it was like on Facebook?
The big difference is the names. Like Facebook, you have your legitimate names,
right?
And then a lot of my community from Facebook switched over to Whatnot when I moved over, and they're like, "Yo, it's Stephanie or it's Carlos," but their names are Gar Gangs, and I'm like, or like whatever, and I'm like, "Oh, what's up, bro?" So I have to like mentally remember those people that are my OGs.
Right.
That was the biggest transition, is just the names. But honestly, most of my community, a big portion, switched over when I went to Whatnot and are still here day one. So
it's actually the reverse now, because you get all these customers that use their screen name, and then you meet them in real life and they're like, "Oh, hey, it's me,
Potato Chip 79
yeah."
Blizzy Gang.
Or they join Discord and they have a different name. Like, "No, over here I'm Hot Dog Water 48.
It's crazy when you meet those people at conventions. I can't ever put a face to a name.
Yeah,
that's right. A Pokemon character or a random whatever it is. So meeting people in real life, now I have a face to a name I won't forget. But it's definitely a lot different than Johnny Bravo from Facebook, and it's like their legitimate name. It's a little bit different.
That's actually crazy. I used to game with a kid, and that was his gamer tag was Johnny Bravo, and that's what I called him. And then when I added him in my phone, I put him as that, and he told me his real name. I'm like, no, Johnny Bravo, definitely.
Oh, it's always Johnny Bravo.
Yeah.
All of my internet friends, it's only internet names. Everybody calls me Wash.
Right.
Like when I like hang out with people I have known forever, and they call me by my real name, sometimes it takes me a second because I'm just so used to hearing my internet name.
When I'm at conventions, it's weird because I'm used to Zilla, or people that aren't close to me, they'll say Goodzilla. But someone says Corey, I'm like,
who? What?
Me? Who?
That's me?
I'm like, oh yeah, that is me. But at conventions, I don't think about it because everyone knows me by Goodzilla, Zilla, whatever. Yeah, it's weird.
That's actually crazy because I never went by Cardboard. Garrett actually started calling me Cardboard. He introduced me calling me Cardboard. So now everybody's, "Hey, Cardboard." I was always just Ryan.
That's a lot better than Uez, when that wasn't even his name, and I just mispronounced it, and then it stuck, and now that's his name.
But it is pretty catchy though.
It's better than
Easy. Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
No, Uez is way cooler.
Uez is cool.
I am trash at pronouncing people's names in real life and Pokemon, and there's whatever Poke names, whatever. I want to mess it up regardless.
Since you've been streaming since 2021, what year did you start on Whatnot?
March of 2022.
And you're on your 3-year anniversary coming up. In the 3 years you've been on Whatnot, how have you seen the platform evolve? What's different from then to now? What's gotten better? What's stayed the same?
A lot changed within TOS. When I started, we could do high bid prizes, bounties, the fun stuff.
It was definitely the Wild West back in the early 2020s for sure.
Yeah, and I like gambling. I'll go to the casino, so why would I not do this?
Yeah.
At the same time, ripping packs of Pokemon is literally just like gambling for children and now adults. It's changed a lot in the sense of what's allowed, what's not allowed. Obviously, since I started, Whatnot's allowed a lot more people into the streaming aspect of things and sellers. And I've seen pros and cons on that aspect. It's some people's streams, I'm like, these are 10 out of 10, the quality, commentary, the vibe, so on and so forth. And then some people I'd see, I'm just like, nice. I'm going to keep scrolling through on my alternate account so I can lurk and see what everyone's doing.
Yeah, it's interesting because they need to continue to expand their seller base and get people on the app. But I think the negative side of that is we've seen a lot of it recently too, where there's scammers and bad actors. You get a lot of those people because there's no vetting process. Anybody with a phone can go live and then sell cards, never send them out. You only see that stuff. For a lot of people, you'll see on Twitter, I would never buy on Whatnot because I saw this. And it's like, there's a lot of good people on there too.
Yeah, but that's with any business. Look at reviews on Google. If for a business, the only time anyone makes a post or posts something, it's always typically negative. It doesn't matter if it's within a business, a restaurant, a bar. It could be streaming the app. No one's going to talk about the positive things. They want to talk about the negatives to have something to stir up the pot and to have views and have a clickbait. At the same time, it is good to spread awareness when those things do happen. And I agree that should be happening within the hobby because we should know that, and those people shouldn't be streaming. And that's where I think there's different areas that Whatnot should figure out a structure of who's allowed to stream. Or my opinion is people like myself or other streamers that have been doing it for a long time and have a good community and following, give them some sort of like verification of that solidifies them, that differentiates them from some of the other sellers.
Right.
I don't know what that looks like, but just something that offsets that bad taste in people's mouths of the negative stuff and the things that people have done in the hobby on the app, because that doesn't justify everybody.
And I think they've started to move that way with the standards for a star. What do they call it? A star
Premier
shop? Premier shop.
Yeah.
They're starting to do some of that. I think they're going to keep going that way. And obviously, as you were talking about, they've really tightened up the TOS on allowing certain things, and it's got to be a lot more straightforward. And of course, what was it, just yesterday, the new TOS went into place on repacks or mystery items.
I don't even run mystery stuff, and that's like what I was notoriously known for, was mystery bags and the value and the prizes that you could win for like floor average ceiling. I've been running that since like day one, and I don't even mess with that anymore. I just do a buy now structure, or I'll do dollar start, like a vintage box break or vintage singles. Other than that, I just go live at this point.
Yeah.
Just because there's too much negativity that don't justify me doing it, and I can still have fun and do dollar starts, and that gets my adrenaline going. Just dollar starting a $3,000 card and just see what happens.
That was wild.
That was...
We've been doing some crazy dollar start vintage with 3K plus cards, starting them at $1 and letting it ride. It's fun. It sucks when you lose, but at the same time, it's content and it's something cool for the hobby, and people have an option to get something that they wouldn't normally be able to get and see on camera, see the quality.
That's a good segue too. Like, how do you feel? Obviously, selling and streaming on Whatnot is a very non-traditional type of content. It's not YouTube videos. I feel like it's a unique challenge to make content elsewhere because there's not a ton of discovery on Whatnot itself. It's very hard to just grow simply by going live on Whatnot and just thinking you're gonna have 1,000 viewers because you have XY pack. What do you think is the unique challenge with creating content outside? Because you do make a lot of content, a lot of shorts and stuff like that. Like, what do you think is like kind of the importance there, and any tip on what people could do better there?
I could always do better. I'm not as consistent as I would like to be, just because I'm so busy with my other businesses and bars, all the other business stuff that I do day in and day out aside from Pokemon. But I think consistency is key, quality is key, and then also just being original and true to who you are, and don't fake it. Don't try to make something that isn't true to you or that's not you. It's going to come off as fake, and you have a good idea, but you're not going about it a genuine way. It makes it where, my opinion, cringy. I can usually tell, and I'm like, I'm good. I think coming up with unique or cool things to do to offset what differentiates you, or maybe it's your edits, maybe it's the product that you're talking about, or the style of if it's a Q&A or if you're doing something that's just more parody or funny, what is it that's going to change the route where people are going to remember you?
Definitely hard to grow a community if you're just starting out with no followers on whatnot. If you don't have any followers on any platform, it's even harder, obviously, but it's easier to build a community on a platform like TikTok or Instagram where they're going to put your content out to people that you don't know. You're going to gain followers by like-minded people or people that are interested in your content, as opposed to whatnot. You're really grinding out to find buyers.
It is nice right now. The hobby is so popular and people are just going crazy. So it is a nice time if you're making content elsewhere. There's more eyes that are looking for Pokemon content, but who knows how long that's going to last. So where do you think this boom is heading? I've seen people talk, oh, we're just at the beginning of this. This is going to be a year, or are we going to taper off, or is it just going to pop?
Eventually it's going to pop. That's how the market of Pokemon always is. I don't know if we're at a point where it's at the very top tier of it and it's about to pop the bubble, but nothing can just keep going, especially when you talk about modern and you talk about so many of these hits and the pop report and grading aspects versus vintage. I think the modern sets that are coming out are just such bangers and people are just getting stoked. And if you put it in perspective, say you buy a Prismatic Evolutions pack, it's $14, but you can have the potential to pull a pack that's worth $4,000 as a god pack. Right. What ROI could you ever do on a vintage pack that's the same kind of return on such a low amount of risk? And I think people are seeing that and are geeking, and they think it's just like a quick flip or quick buck, and that'll fade out as always. But I think we're at a point right now, at least in modern, that you're going to see the hype and it's going to keep going higher. I'd say probably for the next 2 years. Now, I'm not saying that this peak isn't going to plateau to some capacity, but with the new Rocket style set that's coming out and the way Pokemon's doing their hit ratios and how much harder it is to pull things, I don't know. The market's crazy, especially with all the evolution stuff. And then now with the Team Rocket sets coming, could be going for years.
Yeah. And then we get megas. And then next year we have the 30th anniversary.
That's so weird to think about that, bro.
Isn't that?
I remember the 25th anniversary when I was on Facebook, and to say 30th is crazy. And I'm still doing this 5 years.
It's going to be interesting this year and next year. Like you said, the market's pretty cyclical. So you've seen it being in the COVID times. Obviously, it was booming then. And if you started, you said this is your 3 year on whatnot.
I was on 2 years on Facebook, 3 years on whatnot.
So you were like 2020, right?
Yeah.
In 2020, it was actually very hard to just go to Target and find product. You either were catching drops. I guess I don't know about where you're at, but up here in the Midwest, it was tough. Every time they would come to restock a Target or a Walmart, there'd be 10 people waiting.
Oh, don't you know? Yeah, but
10 people waiting for the restock. And I think the new age of that is the Pokemon Center vending machines, people waiting in line and they know when they're going to come restock, and then the first guy buys out the whole thing and everybody else just records it and makes content about it.
Crazy. Yeah, back in 2020, I was shopping around a lot at as many Targets and Walmarts that I could go to, and I had a helper that was helping me find inventory, so they were doing runs looking for a product for me as well. And then at that point, I was honestly making Facebook posts and Instagram stories of, if you have Pokemon, let me know, I'm buying. People were like, Pokemon, what the hell? A lot of people, it was modernized and it was like up there as far as relevance, but not to the extent of it is now. And so I was buying out collections from friends and then people off Facebook Marketplace and all over the place. And a lot of the time people didn't even realize the value of the items that they had. Oh, this is my childhood binder. It's been in the closet for 20 years, and it's, oh, let's see what you got. And then they end up having bangers, and people are just sitting on these.
Yeah,
they don't know, right?
Yeah, it still happens today too. People pull out their childhood binders, and oh my god, you have insane stuff here.
I still have my childhood binder with all my cards.
I wish I did. I remember vividly, there was like a dip in Pokemon. I was like 10 years older. There was a dip and it was not quite as popular for a minute. So I went to a local card shop, sold it all for $1. And I had the craziest stuff in there. If I think about it now, and it's just like, oh my God.
It'd be like that.
So how do you find time to balance the business side of Pokemon with your other business ventures?
Having a team. Teamwork makes the dream work. I have a very solid crew back at house for Pokemon. I've got an assistant that helps me when I'm streaming. That's packaging product, getting stuff ready to ship off. And then I have a shipping team that basically just ships everything off for me. So I've got people behind me to make sure everything's structured, good to go. I've got people always looking for inventory for me, helping me find collections, all the collecticons and different card shows that are in Dallas. Dallas has got a lot of bases. Like the Collecticon's based out of Dallas. You got the Dallas Card Show. You've got a lot of big shows and events here where there's just a lot of different options to go to shows. And then same with my bar world. I own 3 bars and a retail shop here in Dallas, and they all have bar managers. I've got other business partners that basically have different areas of the business that they take care of, whether it's the accounting, the bookkeeping, the preset of starting the business with the construction, getting the contractors in place, getting the credentials, like getting your CO, getting your permits, getting zoning done. All those things are just layers to it that offset all that time and energy so that I can justify putting my time and energy into other things as well. So, like I said, teamwork makes the dream work. Without everyone that I work with and that works for me, I wouldn't be able to do what I do.
It definitely takes a village. We talked a little bit about the childhood binders you've always been collecting for a long time. What nostalgia does collecting have for you? And do you have a favorite piece in your collection?
For me, it's the first gen of Pokemon is my nostalgia. I remember the first pack I ever ripped that had a holo in it was base set, and I pulled the holo Zapdos.
Nice.
I was 10 and I just lost my shit. And that was at the time when Pokemon was brand new, and my grandparents raised me growing up for majority of my life. Every Sunday, we would drive to San Antonio, which from where I lived at the time was 30 minutes. We would drive 30 minutes just to go pick up some packs. And they even back then, you could only get a certain quantity of packs. So I could maybe get 4 booster packs at a time. And I'd save up all my savings of the chores and random things I need to do around the house for my allowance, and I would just spend that money on Pokemon cards.
That's awesome.
Anything nostalgic like that, vintage. I'm still vintage at heart all day. I pick vintage over modern any day of the year. Our most prized possession is I have a Sparkle Gengar. It's like a pop. It's under a pop 10, I believe, pop 10 or pop 11. I actually bought this card raw, and I just thought it was so cool looking. A lot of people shit on tops, but Sparkles just hit different, and it's just so different from any other Pokemon card. And I just felt, even though it's not a playable card, it's just the aesthetic is just so sick. And same thing with LC, like Legendary Collections. When I was a kid, I was like, these are fake cards. These are trash. They just look like stickers. So there's fireworks. And then now it's like one of my favorite sets. Yeah. And it's crazy how the times have changed.
The firework reverses, we talked about that last week. It's one of the coolest sets, and we're hoping that when they come out, maybe even the 30th anniversary, that they'll do a set with something like that, but maybe in the Pokemon Pocket reverses. They could do a lot now, and they haven't come out with a set like that since Legendary.
Yeah, it's one of the most unique ones out of all the sets.
It'd be interesting to see something like that. So you graded that card from Raw, and it got a PSA 10?
Yeah, I took a huge risk. There was somebody that had bought out a collection of all Technos, Sparkles, Chromes. I believe it was from a person that sold it to them. I think they worked for Top. A lot of those cards I don't think ever touched package. They were the cards individually that were supposed to go in. I don't know how the origin of that went down into fruition, but they were so clean that I felt as that it would 10. So I took a huge risk because I paid for that card raw last year. I paid $4,000 for that card raw, just hoping that it would 10. And I went to nationals and I went through when PSA was grading. I submitted it in a 10. So here we are. Never selling it.
Cool too, because you graded it yourself. It's like an extra layer of the story with it.
100%. Same with my Gengar EX from Fire Red Leaf Green. I ripped a random pack, filmed it, and I pulled the Gengar in at 10. That was sick.
That's sick. Fire. And those are the best when you pull a card yourself, grade it, it gets a 10, perfect grade. That's really when you put it in your PC. Oh yeah, from start to finish, this card was all me.
100%.
Yeah, that's one of the greatest things. And it's funny you mentioned that when you're a kid, you pull your first holo and you just lose it. I have a bunch of kids that come into the shop, they'll buy packs and regular EXs or any type of holo, and they're just like, oh my gosh, this is so crazy. It's so cool to see, and they don't think, or maybe their parents don't think, the memories they're creating, like opening those packs and seeing that. Exactly. It's so cool. And those are the future collectors when they grow up, and then they'll be like, oh, I did this when I was a kid and it's so fun. And you got to rip with me. And we see a lot of dads or moms coming in with their kids and they rip together. And even if the dad and mom collect sports, the kids like Pokemon, and it's just cool to see.
I also think the fact that we're in a different aspect of Pokemon that no one's ever seen. When I was a kid, it's not like I had parents that were collecting Pokemon, right? So it's like now we're at a generation upcoming the 30-year anniversary. Now you've got 2 generations collecting, and you're bonding over that with your kids, which has never been done hypothetically before. some people probably had parents that collected or did it with them when they were kids, but I just had my grandparents, my parents that were just like, all right, here's your Pokemon cards. Here you go. But we didn't collect. Now you get to have that bonding experience with a new generation and experience. If I could just even have a tenth of what it felt like ripping my first base set pack and pulling my first holo to the thousands of packs I've ripped now, that would be amazing, because that's just like an experience you won't forget. I still remember that.
I definitely see both sides too. Obviously, not everybody collected when they were younger or our age, so it's some of the parents will come in, they'll just be like, I just don't get it, or they'll give a kid 4 or 5 minutes in the store and they're like, you ready to go? Let's get out of here. You got your stuff. Let's go. It's just let them enjoy it. They like to send. When they grow up, they'll be like, oh yeah, I used to do this, and then future generations will be able to collect with their kids. It's gonna be pretty cool to see how this kind of lays out the next 20 to 30 years.
100%. I don't have kids, but part of me, just because of that aspect of collecting and bonding, makes me, I'm like, maybe I'll have a kid.
This would be cool, actually.
Gengar Jr., it's time to go.
Gengar Jr.
Have you ever made a business decision regarding Pokemon cards that you regret?
Yes. Last year, I was at a front row card show, and I traded my PSA 10 set of Poncho Pikas for a bunch of inventory. It valued right around 24K. And obviously, you never know what the market's going to do. And I felt like there's just so many PSA 10s of ponchos. I'm like, it's not going to go up. And then now new comps are like 50K. So I could have 2x what I sold it for. So looking back, I'm like, I would have just waited like a few more months. I would have been 2xing what I sold it for or traded for. So that stings a little bit, but also that's the hobby, that's the market. You just don't know until it happens.
You never know. And obviously money is not an unlimited resource, so it's like sometimes you gotta flip some stuff to get new stuff in to grow the business at that rate. I look back at a lot of things where I purchased and sold them, and maybe I sold it too early, but if I wouldn't have held that, who knows if you'll be where you're at today.
I hoard a lot for PC, and I've become less hoardy. That's even a word. I hoard so much shit, and I have a big PC, but it's hard for me to let that kind of stuff go.
Yeah.
I've been trying to diligently let some things go that I could justify letting go that I don't have on my PC and accept it, but it still sucks. You know?
Yeah.
I want to catch them all.
I want to keep it. Yeah. I do that probably once a year. I'll look at my collection and be like, oh, okay, we got to thin this out
Spring
a little
cleaning.
bit. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Nope, can't keep. I got to keep that one. Nope, I'm keeping this one too. And you're just like, where do I go? I go, okay, I got to let this one go. I don't want
It's bad sometimes. You'll like look at it and you're just like, oh my God, I have so much stuff right now.
Yeah. It's great though. The ponchos have went up year over year, but as far as modern sets go, which ones do you think will hold long-term value?
Are we talking Sun and Moon, or are we talking, what era of modern are we talking?
Wash and I were talking about where the line is drawn in the sand on modern.
Mine's X, Y, and up, in my opinion.
X, Y, and up, and we were saying after X, Y, and up, mostly because X, Y is designed after vintage. It's like reprinted vintage almost. It's like people associate that with the original cards because the art's the same. But either way, it's here or
Sword
there.
and Shield, Sun and Moon, Sword and Shield.
Yeah. What sets do you think will hold their value or go up over time?
I think Burning Shadows is going to go up.
Oh, yeah. Great set.
I think it's slept on. That Charizard's just insane, and obviously that set's really hard to rip and get good hits. Hidden Fates is always going to go up. Evolving Skies is going to go up. Fusion Strike's going to go up. Crown Zenith is going to go up and keep going. Prismatic obviously is going to go up. Anything that has those crazy alt arts and has like those sought after cards that are just insane as far as like on a collector standpoint, and with the quality and the style of that card, I think for people, that's like the new vintage for the new era of kids and generations of kids. That's going to be like what they consider their vintage. And that's going to be things that are going to keep that value, in my opinion.
Yeah, that makes sense. As far as sports cards go, in the 90s, they overprinted everything to the ground and there's no value. With Pokemon, a lot of that during the late 90s is what's worth the most money now. And I don't know if that has to do, back in the 90s, everybody collected. Nobody really cared for their card. Now you have hundreds of products where you can care for your cards, put them in binders, and do all these
I didn't
things.
put them in a penny sleeve.
Exactly.
We didn't have top loaders.
Not back then. You're just like, oh, this
That's
is
why
cool.
there's all those
put in
by
your
those binder
pocket.
things.
Yeah.
I wasn't even doing that in XY.
Yeah.
I found my old XY binder Nothing was penny sleeved. It was just raw dogged in the binder, and I'm just like, oh my god, dude.
What did I do?
We didn't know you could grade cards and stuff. That wasn't a thought when I was 11 years old, like
Right.
ripping these packs. And the worst was the front binder. I'd always have like my big hit cards on the front, and then usually it was always the Charizard, and those were the cards that got damaged the most by that binder.
3 rings.
If I had known if I could teleport, but
Put them in the middle, but you're like, no, I need them in the front.
I gotta flex on all the kids at school.
How many kids just, let me just put all my cards out so I can look at my whole collection. And it's definitely changed a lot in the future because people care for their cards more. There's printing issues. You see a lot of the white dots off-centered, other that cause your cards not to grade high. So we'll see, compared to the first generation of Pokemon where people were just not caring for their stuff because it wasn't really a thing, as opposed to now, kids are the same way. I probably have 2 to 3 kids a month come into the store and they're like, oh, I want to get a card graded. I'm like, oh, what do you got? And then they pull them out of their pocket and put them on the counter. And I'm like, these are probably not going to do too well. So I would
hopefully you at least give them some knowledge.
Yeah, here's some penny sleeves and a couple top loaders. Make sure if you get the good cards, you put them in here, guys. Do you see any threats or risks to the Pokemon card market's sustainability in the future? Obviously, we're at a hype, and you can see the printing numbers, and they've went from billions of cards to 11 billion cards a year they print now. It's some crazy statistic. I know they mitigate that by making the odds hard to hit the big chases out of the sets, but obviously they're printing more than ever, and it's still not enough to feed the current demand of the market. Do you see any problems with the Pokemon resale market for either sealed or singles?
I see it being an issue within reselling. It goes both ways, right? So it's, if you're looking at a collector standpoint or if you're looking at it as a business standpoint, they're two different coins. If Pokemon starts to reprint everything to the dome, all these past modern sets, and it's just they're printing, yeah, we're going to see a fluctuation indefinitely within a lot of those graded cards and those things that have gone up in value, because if there's more available, they're going to be easier to get. So in theory, it really comes down to how much Pokemon's going to reprint sets and what their hit rates are. Hard to tell. And especially with the grading services, there's just so much controversy within grading companies. It's in a weird place. So it's hard to really confirm, but I could see it potentially being something negative for sure if they keep reprinting and keep doing certain things.
You bring up a good question there about the controversy and stuff with the grading companies and inconsistencies. PSA recently announced that they're changing and they're making their guidelines stricter. The centering on the front now has to be 55-45. It used to be 60-40. Do you see any issues with that? Do you think it's a good thing, bad thing?
I almost feel as that they should keep the old concept of 60-40 for vintage, and then modern, they were more precise on that, because back in the day, there's no way Pokemon thought, okay, we got to make sure these are ESA 10 potential cards. They were just a brand new business trying to make it work, and we're focused on the TCG of actually playing and collecting. They didn't think of the value of it being graded and what the value is when it was in the cleanest state it could potentially be in. I think new certs are going to go for a higher price value, not necessarily on modern, but with vintage for sure. People will pay a premium on a new cert versus a two cert. Two certs were like the worst time and era of PSA grading for giving 10s out that were like 8s and 9s. They were just giving it left and right, and now they're so strict it's almost impossible to get a PSA 10 grade of some of those vintage cards. I think it's going to be an uphill battle, and people are going to realize how much harder it is to grade, even on modern. Obviously, even if it's just a little OC or it's a little crooked on the front, you're getting 9s, and it's going to be harder and harder. I see the pros and cons behind it, but it's not going to change much of the pop report for modern, in my opinion, the way it's been going.
I kind of wish that they had kept it the same, but then added another level. Added their black label or their pristine. PSA didn't have that. Instead, now we have a new grading curriculum, essentially, from this cert on. Why not add another level where it's, okay, these are really the ones that are the top tier?
Yeah, I agree with you, but Beckett has already got that market. It'd be hard to justify that, and I could already just see the memes and the people talking crap and smack on it.
Yeah. And the comparisons between the two.
They're trying to copy Beckett. Yeah. And obviously we saw a lot of that backlash when CGC switched over. 9.5s from old certs are now Gem Mint 10s, and now they have the gold labels, which they had pristines. When you change something that's been embedded into our brain, a certain style and a certain way, not everyone's going to enjoy that, and it's going to cause a lot of annoyance for people that have been collecting for so long and already have these cards in these certain grades for X amount of years. Just switch it up. I think it fluctuates the market too much.
What do you think is going to happen with the PSA 9s? So it's harder to get a PSA 10 now. A 9 in today's market, it may be in Pokemon specifically, sometimes raw is worth more than a 9. 10 is where you get quite a leap in sports versus Pokemon. You're typically getting your value plus the grading cost back in a 9, but Pokemon, a lot of times, unless it's vintage, that's not the case. Do you think now that 9s are the new 10s and the 10s are a new greater thing in these newer certs that people are giving that a bump in value, or do you think that it's already set in stone the way people view the 10s, 9s, and down?
I think that's not going to change. The only way that could ever change is if Pokemon decided to full send in a collector standpoint, not the TCG standpoint, and realized like hits, there's only 5,000 Umbreon VMAX alts, and then that's it. There's no others, and they're all numbered. At that point, your value, no matter if there's one of ones in sports or one of 5, one of 10, those cards, because there's serialized, there's only a certain amount, it's going to have that value no matter what. I think people are at that point are going to either keep the 9s and sell them or crack them out of the slab and just sell them raw and then try to get another one to try to 10.
That makes sense. Obviously, your favorite Pokemon has to be Gengar. I see the cup. We saw the card. What's your favorite Pokemon set of all time and why?
It's funny. Gengar's my favorite Pokemon, and my favorite set does not have Gengar in it. My all-time favorite set is hands down EX Team Rocket Returns. I'm big into dark Pokemon. Team Rocket, when it came out when I was a kid, was my all-time favorite set. I just like the dark eeriness side of things within Pokemon. I'm a huge 80s horror nerd. I've got a huge collection of horror busts and signed stuff, props that have been used in movies. The dark type Pokemon are just my bee's knees. They're my shit. Team Rocket Returns is my all-time favorite set. The reverses, the EXs. Gold stars are cool. They're not my jam, but the EXs and the reverses are super sick.
I got a favorite Gengar card.
My favorite Gengar card, probably the Masaki Gengar. Then after that, Skyridge Gengar is probably going to be my second. But Masaki Gengar, I think, is the coolest.
It is sick. And like the story of like how to get it, I think is really cool.
The Pikachu card that they just printed in the Chinese 151 where Gengar's in the forest. That one looks pretty dope. Nothing in comparison to those other ones, but the Gengar where he has an ominous or he's in the background of a card. It's not really a Gengar card. He's just in it, and it's cool to see. Gengar has so much popularity across the Pokemon community. Live streaming Pokemon card openings, you can go back to 2013, 2014. That's when streaming really started. It didn't gain popularity till 5 years after that. 2018 to 2020 is when it started, and you got in there 2020 and crossed over from a streaming to a sales streaming type of platform. Yeah. Where do you see streaming going in the next 5 years? It's still new and they're just honing in on what regulations and rules. Where do you see the next 5 years of streaming going?
I see it being marketed more in ads and targeting ads. At points that you're going to have businesses now like card shops where they have hubs for people to stream for their product and their inventory, not just the walk-in traffic. There's another source of income that they can bring in that could be justifiable, and it's bringing more customers, it's bringing more jobs. So I think we're going to see a lot more of that pivot into a different area of a workforce where it's going to become a very common conversation, just people that are streaming video games. I think we've barely even started the cusp of online streaming when it comes to trading cards or even retail or jewelry, all those things. Now it's, I can do this at the comfort of my own home and make money and do what I enjoy. Why would I not want to do that versus working a 9 to 5 for Joe Blow, my opinion.
And it'll be interesting to see the platform, the landscape. Obviously, there's a lot of different methods. You can do breaks, or you were saying dollar starts on singles, and you can really get anything you're looking for streaming, and you don't even have to leave your house, or you can do it after you've had a long day at home, log in and shop, check out all the different card sets, card singles, and just have everything mailed to you.
I think that's the coolest thing is look at eBay. I know eBay is going to have their own live and they're in beta right now, but if I'm looking at a pack or a card, and I'm just looking at a photo, I feel fine with just spending a little extra money by seeing the card and knowing that it's from a person, like an IRL situation where I can see physically the card, I know the condition, or that pack and it's box fresh, and I know it's not weighed if we're talking vintage. I just see that doing so much better and making a bigger business for these online streamers like myself or you guys to keep this going long term. It's going to fade out a lot of the buy now prices and the other auctions of stuff that you can't physically see at the item.
It's interesting to see because growing up, for me personally, it was the Home Shopping Network where it was live selling all the time. You could call in, order, and they shipped it to you. That was one-sided compared to streaming now. It adds an entertainment value, and people can interact with you in the chat. Depending on your height of entertainment, it adds a value above comps specifically to cards. So in the next 5 years, you could see, and even in the past 5 years, we've seen very popular people stream, actors and TV personalities that also cross over into Pokemon and other collectible avenues, and they actually collect themselves. So I think there's a lot of room to grow the entertainment slash shopping live streaming over the next 5 years. It's going to be interesting to watch, and that's without even accounting for what the platforms change in the next 5 years.
Well, there's going to be other apps that are going to be doing these types of things. And there's always a McDonald's and a Burger King. There's always going to be a Wendy's. There's always going to be other apps that are going to change and switch it up a little bit and bring more content creators in. And I think the biggest thing, like you said, is when you have a community and you can build content and you're fun and entertaining and you're giving entertainment on top of selling something, that's such a big factor into wanting to buy from somebody versus being a used car sales. Here's this card and you have no depth or value into what you're talking about. You can feed off people's energy within stream. So that's going to separate a lot, I think, over the next 5 years of a make or break. If you're a content creator, streamer, and maybe that's in video games, or if you can be a content creator within the hobby and still sell something that's physically attainable that you are getting of a product, but also selling your brand as that seller, that streamer. I think it's cool. The next 5 years, who knows what's going to happen?
Yeah, it could be crazy. Specifically for you, what's next in the Pokemon space? Do you have any upcoming project or big moves coming up?
I've got some stuff. We got some things. We got some more collabs coming up. We did a collab with Waka Flocka a few weeks ago now in Atlanta. We did a box break. I'm working with more content creators and people outside of the space that I'm trying to bring awareness that do collect, to just make it offset the norm of what people are expecting doing vintage box breaks. And then I have a new clothing company, apparel brand that I'm going to be launching here in the next few months. I can show you some of that merch. And then I got some new Goodzilla merch. Here's one of them. I've got 6 new designs coming out, but this is one of them that's pretty cool.
A little Charizard. Dead trainers tell no tales is crazy.
It's kind of fire though.
That is fire.
It's pretty sick.
It's pretty cool. Is that embroidered then?
Yeah, it's on like a blanket material and then it's customly sewn on. I have a clothing company that is going to be launching. I haven't really spoke about it in public. It's going to be called No Rarity, and it's going to be custom, like first edition prints. It's not going to be just Pokemon, but the first run of it's going to be strictly Pokemon based, all custom shirts that are going to be tailored and customized. No shirt's going to be alike from the other. They're all going to be made in the same style and aesthetic. So here's one of the hoodies. These are all just example or test prints. So here's the front. The sides have this skull arms. That's pretty sick.
That is sick.
And then the back is super sick. So it's like a crazy looking Charizard.
That's crazy.
The branding is No Rarity. Like when Japanese base, when they had the No Rarity symbol. That's kind of like the concept behind that.
I love it.
That is really cool looking.
So we got some things happening. We got some things cooking. And then we got some new bars happening. Just opened up my after hours club. We just had our grand opening last week and we're rushing. It's been super crazy. Sold out every Friday, every Saturday. Things are good, man. Just busy, staying proactive and trying to have somewhat of a normal life outside of just working my life away. At least I love what I do. Gonna make it really fun for Collecticons in Dallas for the trade nights and after parties. We'll be hosting all those. So that'll be exciting for everyone that comes through that doesn't know that side of my life, of the bar life and nightlife and everything else that I do outside of the hobby. So it'll be cool.
That is so sick.
Well, let's finish off with a bang. Thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it. Wash and Cardboard. The last thing I want to do is just wreck you guys in a pack battle if you're cool with that.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, let's go.
Let's do Crown Zenith.
Okay.
Wash, I'll let you pick my pack.
Oh no, that's crazy.
Oh, no.
You picked the pack that he beats us with.
Come on, imagine 5 packs, 1 through
Let's
5.
do number 2.
All right, you guys got your packs?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, here we go. Good luck, nerds. Just give me a gold.
That would be crazy.
All right, here we go. I'm on my reverse.
Oh, I am too.
Me
Oh.
too.
Get
Oh,
shit
no.
on.
We got smoked.
Come on, double hit.
We got smoked.
Now at least I can blame it on Wash.
Yeah,
As to
that's
why
true.
I didn't get a hit.
That's true.
I appreciate it, guys.
Thanks for coming on, dude.
Thank you for your time, man.
Absolutely.
Everyone, make sure you check out for the ETB giveaway. Prismatic. Link in the description of the video. We're going to draw before the 4th episode, so make sure you get signed up this week. Only a few days left till we close that off and draw the name for the winner.
Be sure to check out Zilla on all the socials.
His IG has all of his social links. We'll put that, the stuff for the podcast here, how to sign up for that giveaway once again. We'll see you for the next episode.
Goodbye.